Don't move. Hands up right now. That's how it started, and I still hear it sometimes when I pull up to a gas pump, that sharp voice slicing through an ordinary afternoon like it was waiting for me. One second I was just watching the numbers roll, thinking about dinner, thinking about nothing at all. And the next I felt that familiar drop in my stomach, the one that says this isn't about what you did, it's about who you are. Yeah, that happened. And I'll tell you straight up, I didn't wake up that morning thinking I was going to become a headline or a case study or a cautionary tale. I woke up thinking about work, about getting through a long day, about getting home in one piece. My name's Malcolm Avery, and I'm a judge. But that day, none of that protected me, not my suit, not my title, not the fact that I've spent my life believing in the law and trying to make it work the way it's supposed to. All that mattered, at least to one man with a badge and a gun, was that I was a black man standing next to a nice car in the wrong place, or what he decided was the wrong place. Earlier that afternoon, everything was normal, boring even. Court had been heavy, one of those days where you hear people's lives fall apart in front of you and you're expected to be calm, measured fair, like you're not carrying any of it home with you. I've been on the bench long enough to know how to keep my voice steady, how to listen more than I talk, how to make decisions that won't please everyone but won't destroy anyone either. That day, I left the courthouse tired but satisfied, thinking about my wife, about maybe stopping to grab something to eat, about how quiet the house would be when I got there. I pulled into a gas station I'd used 100 times, clean, well-lit, right off the road between downtown and my neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing ever happens. I slid my card, hit regular, stuck the nozzle in, checked my phone, you know what I mean? Just existing, just being a guy, buying gas. I felt the stare before I saw it. You know that feeling like someone's eyes are pressing into your back? I glanced up and saw the unmarked cruiser parked at an angle near the store, saw the officer inside watching me a little too closely, like he'd found something interesting. I tried to brush it off because you learn to do that. You learn not to react to every look, every little thing, or you'd never get through the day. But the longer he watched, the more I knew where this was going. When the pump clicked off and I turned to hang the nozzle back, I heard footsteps coming up fast behind me, and then that voice, loud, aggressive, way out of proportion for the moment. Don't move. Hands up. I froze, lifted my hand slowly, felt my heart start to race. Not because I was guilty, but because I know how fast things can go wrong when someone with authority decides you're a problem. I turned my head just enough to see him, uniformed hand already on his weapon, eyes locked on me like I was something dangerous. I kept my voice calm, the way I've learned to do over decades of dealing with people in crisis. I said I was compliant, asked what was going on. He stepped closer, started asking what I was doing there, whose car that was, how I could afford it. And there it was, the question behind the questions. I told him it was my car, offered to show him the registration, asked why I was being stopped. He demanded my ID, and I gave it to him slowly, carefully narrating every move. Because that's what you do when you don't want to become another story people argue about later. He looked at my license like it was a joke, didn't run, it didn't radio it in, just stared at my name and then back at my face like he was trying to catch me in a lie. When he asked where I worked, I told him. When he asked what I did, I told him I was a judge. And he laughed, actually laughed, like I'd told him something ridiculous. A judge, he said, shaking his head. Yeah, right. I told him my full name. My court offered him my business card, asked him to call his supervisor so we could clear it up. He didn't like that. He didn't like being challenged even politely. He told me I was acting suspicious, told me I looked out of place, told me to open my trunk. By then, people were watching. I could feel it, see it in the corner of my eye. A woman, a couple pumps over, pulling out her phone, a guy slowing down as he walked out of the store. The young attendant inside staring through the glass with that tight look that says something's wrong here. I refused the search because I know my rights and because refusing isn't a crime, no matter how much some people want it to be. That's when his hand tightened on his gun, not drawn but close enough that the message was clear. Comply or this gets worse. I felt that old anger rise, the kind that's been simmering since childhood, since the first time someone followed me around a store or clutched their purse a little tighter. But I kept it in check because this wasn't the place to let it out. I asked again for a supervisor. He stepped in front of my car door and told me I wasn't leaving. I asked if I was being detained on what grounds, and he just said, suspicion like that explained everything. At that moment, I stopped being a judge in my own mind and became just a man trying to get home alive. I thought about my wife, about the cases I'd seen where an officer felt threatened, about how easily a situation can spiral when ego and prejudice get mixed with power. I reached for my phone slowly and told him I was going to call the courthouse to verify my identity. He yelled at me to put it away, accused me of trying to call accomplices. And yeah, even now it sounds absurd, but there was nothing funny about the way he said it. The woman filming spoke up, said I wasn't doing anything wrong, and he snapped at her to stop recording. She didn't. She stood her ground, and I'll always be grateful for that. An older white man walked over from another pump, asked calmly what the problem was, and I watched the switch flip, watched the officer's tone soften. His posture relax as he explained politely that he was conducting an investigation. Same officer, completely different behavior. I handed the older man my business card and asked him quietly to call the number on it. He did, and a couple minutes later he came back and told the officer the courthouse had confirmed who I was. I thought that would be it. I really did. But the officer just dug in deeper, said the call proved nothing, accused the man of interfering, radioed for backup, claiming I was uncooperative and causing a disturbance. All around us, phones were up, recording, documenting every word, every move. The gas station felt smaller, tighter, like the air itself was watching. When the supervisor arrived, I could tell right away this was different. She stepped out of her car, took in the scene, the crowd, the cameras, the way I was standing still calm, and the way her officer was vibrating with defensiveness. She came straight to me, introduced herself, asked if I was okay. Just that alone, the respect in her voice, almost made me exhale for the first time in half an hour. She asked for my ID, radioed it in immediately, and within 90 seconds, everything he could have verified at the start was confirmed. Clean record, verified identity, judge. I watched her face change as the information came through, watched the disappointment settle in as she turned to speak with him privately. I couldn't hear everything they said, but I heard enough. Questions he couldn't answer, excuses that didn't hold up that stunned silence when she asked why his hand had been on his weapon. When she came back to me, she apologized formally, professionally, and told me I was free to go. I told her this wasn't over, and she nodded like she already knew that. As I got into my car, the officer muttered something about just doing his job, about how people like me didn't understand what police deal with. I looked at him the way I look at someone in court when the truth